far as what the government can do to help people, I'm not very optimistic on helping people by means of government. Um, I'm not sure if government is the real solution because we've seen what happens before when government tries to help people in a mass scale. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the solution moving forward. So we can talk about social welfare and how it affected certain Black communities throughout this country. How beneficial was that? Many would say not very, not very beneficial.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We have a very special guest today, Adam Coleman. Do you use the middle initial as well? Is that like part of your professional name, I guess? So if you're looking him up, it's Adam B. Coleman, author of Black Victim to Black Victor and founder of Wrong Speak Publishing. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Great. Yeah. The weather's actually been nice here in Austin the past couple of days, which is different than how it's been for the past couple of months.
I'm up in New Jersey, and actually today wasn't a bad day. It was actually a little bit cool. Even though it reached up to 90, it wasn't humid. Humidity is our big problem up here.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Well, we're not here to talk about the fucking weather, so tell for those who don't know you out here, tell people who you are and what you do.
So I'm an author. I write op-eds every so often. Lately, I've been writing a lot for the New York Post. I've been very fortunate. I want to say for the past few months, I've written an article every week, a couple times, like 2 articles in a week, and just trying to combat narratives and speak openly and honestly about how I feel about a variety of topics. My book, discusses race, but it discusses from a different perspective, and it talks about concepts like family and things that we can all relate to. So I think that's myself in a nutshell, as far as what I'm trying to do.
What type of narratives are you combating, would you say, most commonly?
I would say in regards to race that the issues of race are minimal, and that's a good thing. And that if we're specifically talking about Black Americans, which seems to be the focal point of the race discussion, that Black Americans have far bigger issues than race or racism, or even conflicts with the police. These are extremely rare situations that happen, thankfully. But the biggest problem, if you want to be specific to demographic, is family and our outlook on family, single parent homes, which I'm a product of. Mm. And, basically lack of proper family, what's the word I'm looking for? Like lack of proper family planning. That's what I was looking for. And also a lack of appreciation for men. That's one thing that is kind of taboo to talk about, but a lot of Black women are basically feminists, even if they don't realize that they're feminists. And not the, women deserve equal access to this and that, the type of misandric, kind of
third wave feminist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I think those are the big narratives that I want to talk about within the book and generally speaking.
Well, what would you say is the most common misconception, I guess,
in regards to race?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking about Black America and how it's a focal point right now. So from your perspective, what do you think is the most incorrect thing that a lot of people believe?
That the majority of us are poor.
Right.
Actually the majority of us are middle class. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's even people who are well-intentioned, even people who agree with me, it's been so baked into our conversation when we talk about Black people that we immediately go to basically the lower class, the poor Black people. And while there may be maybe a disproportionate amount for a variety of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They we always cater to that particular narrative rather than talking about, the regular Black people who go to work every day, who are middle class. Even with me talking about single parent homes, part of my life we were poor. I was homeless a couple times when I was a kid, but the majority of the time we were middle class. We had an apartment. My mom at times was check to check, but other times she was doing all right. She was a nurse, became an RN. She was a middle class person. And so these particular people, and including myself, always get overshadowed because we want to talk about the smaller of the population of Black people. Um, and I think the narrative should be like, yeah, there are poor people of all
Mm.
demographics. And I sometimes I feel like that narrative of talking about the poor Black is in many ways used as a manipulation to push something forward, especially in a post George Floyd world.
Right.
Well, post George Floyd world, where if you want to do anything socially or politically, just claim that it helps Black people or claim that what you want to change hurts Black people and show the most destitute situation, go to the project housing of whatever city, even down to talk about Chicago, all these different things. And meanwhile, everybody else gets overshadowed. And then people, whether they're realizing it or not, maybe I'm walking down the street and they look at me and kind of pity me or like, wow, you made it. And I'm like, I did relatively fine. Even though we were poor at times, I didn't grow up in a project housing. It was never on
Mm.
government assistance. I don't fit that narrative. My mom didn't fit that narrative. Um, and many of the people I know didn't fit that narrative. So I think that's one of the big misconceptions.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for the audience's sake, the poverty rate in Black America is about 23.5%, which is about
Mm-hmm.
1.8 times what it is for the white community, but it's still right. Well, actually, I think for the newest census data, it's 19.5%. So it's below 1/5 now. But you're right. It is.
Yeah.
I think Hispanics are right there too. They're like 17 or 18%. So it's like, you know, I bet if you ask people, I like these questions because they're super, like the output is super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Was talking to Chris Williamson not too long ago about this, about the expected number. Actually, you know what? It was Douglas Murray who told me this. Like if you ask a regular person who identifies just as a Democrat in America, how many unarmed Black people get killed by the police every year, they'll say like a 200 or something like that. If you ask a leftist, like a far left person, they'll say like, I think the average answer was something like 13,000. The real answer is like 7, right? So,
Yeah.
we build these monoliths, I guess. It's just maybe part of how the human brain works, making patterns to, associate certain things with threats and certain things with benefits and stuff, I guess. It's interesting to me that we typically reduce things as low as possible when we're forming opinions about other groups, right? Like we find we find the bad common denominator, and that's the label for that whole group that's other than our group. But
Yeah.
I wonder how often we reduce things to the lowest possible level when we're looking for similarities. Like, for example, 80% of all races, at least 80% of all races are not in poverty, right? But we're
Right.
spending all of our time talking about, and it isn't that we shouldn't address that problem. It's just like, man, you can't spend all of your time on 20% of the population. You know what I mean? It's just not good for the economy. I mean, when everyone does better, everyone does better. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like, I don't know. That part of it is super disappointing, but it is just basically marketing, right? You're talking about the imagery, the optics, and using it to start this organization or that. It's no different than like the prepackaged food industry, where it's like words like homemade and hearty. Those, it's in a can. How the fuck is it homemade? You know what I mean? But you say that, and it like makes people think of a certain thing. It's just marketing,
Right.
right? So you have to ask yourself, these people who are using this as a marketing device, what, like if somebody's trying to use empathy as a weapon against you, you should really pay close attention to that, because
Absolutely.
that's how like most tyranny comes about, actually.
Yeah, that's actually that's a very good point, and I try to talk about that a lot, the weaponization of empathy. But actually, you made me think about something. As much uh, when we say, Black people and we focus on poverty, actually, one thing I notice is we talk about white people and economic prosperity, which actually does the inverse. It overshadows the white Americans who are struggling, who are experiencing some sort of economic turmoil, by labeling them of the economic prosperous, and so no one cares, right? So it actually does the opposite.
Sure.
And I actually find it interesting, like someone like Ibram Kendi,
Hmm.
who loves to do these particular things by making emphasis to white people and success or economic prosperity or home ownership. And I think part of the reason he does that is because that's actually his circle. He is of the economic upper class, and he's surrounded by white upper class people who live a particular
Hmm.
life, and he's making this association. Um, maybe he's not the best example, but I think a lot of maybe upper class and wealthy Black people do this, especially if they're leftists.
Hmm.
They do this particular association because that's their circle. They see white and they see success, and then they look around. They don't see as many people who look like them, so they make inferences of wealth being stolen and all these crazy narratives that come from it, um, and overshadow, just average white people who might be struggling, who are just working class.
Hmm.
Maybe they rent too, so that's what, as someone I've lived in 5 states. I've lived in, at one point in time, I was one of 4 Black kids in the entire school. I've been the minority, like the real minority in
Hmm.
the area, and I've been in racially mixed areas. I've lived all over. And the reality is, it's like people are people, right? They're shitty people of all colors. And we all are experiencing some form of an American life, and we have a general American culture. We have some regional differences, but we have similar experiences. So even when I talk about fatherlessness, there are a lot of white men, Hispanic men, Black men who connect with my message of not having a father
Hmm.
growing up in their life. And they have similar outcomes, and they have similar situations and struggles. And that's one of those things that I'm trying to have people understand, like, even with me talking about, if you're saying specifically Black Americans, what's the biggest problem? And I say fatherlessness,
Hmm.
my next sentence would be, but it's an American problem,
Sure.
because America has the highest rate of single parent homes in the world. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, and how that impacts our society. So as much as I see certain problems happening around us, I'm very quick to say, well, you know, could it be because their father wasn't in their life? And also, we're quick to say deadbeat dads, when in reality, there's a lot of situations when the mother pushes the father away, or when the mother chooses a guy who never wanted to be a father, right? There's bad family planning, so there's lots of different scenarios that come into play versus just wagging your finger at the missing father. And I don't like that narrative,
Hmm.
as well.
Sure. I mean, it's a symptom of this predilection we have to try to solve problems at the highest possible level. So as far upstream as possible. The gun thing is one example where, we have this nihilism in young men from a lack of purpose, a lack of, male role models, things like that. They don't feel like they have any place in society, and it manifests itself in different ways. So some kids, and it really matters where you are too. Like in In the Black and Latino communities, it most readily manifests itself in gang activity. In the white community, it's either drug addiction or fucking mass shooting, right? I mean, but it's the same symptom. It's the same thing that leads to people becoming terrorists. It's a sense of nihilism. Your brain is looking for some kind of purpose, and the problem with brains is that they're really good at being brains. They're a lot better at being brains than we are at thinking. So a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. And then, your brain's struggling for reason and for purpose. And you have these masculine urges towards, aggression that need to be not tamed, but exercised, and then you never get any of that. Right. So you're like, you're just a bonfire at that point. You know what I mean? And it's, of course, something bad's going to happen. That's just how that goes.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. One of the things I like to talk about, like I speak mostly to conservatives just because of who our audience is. I'm not particularly conservative myself, but the audience certainly is. And one of the conversations we've had over the past few years is about, particularly since the George Floyd incident, is about what has led to the situation we're in today, right? So you could start with the Atlantic slave trade and all that shit. About $1 trillion was robbed out of the Black American community, and that compounded over time. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? Now, who knows if it's representative of every other, internal economic ecosystem? The vast majority of that money would have been a few people, and then everybody else would have been just okay, I guess, which is still how it is today. But that's still a big deal. We never really did much. Like, there was some effort to correct that problem a couple of times, but it never really did anything. And then, in the middle of the 20th century, after World War II, the GI Bill and the VA-backed home loan are the two elements that a lot of people credit for creating, along with some labor movement stuff in the late 19th century, are credited for creating the middle class of the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Black people were largely excluded from that because universities under Jim Crow were still allowed to tell black people they couldn't come there. So yeah, that's a problem too. That's two problems. So now we have like people who, the first person in their family who went to college was in 1950. Instead, the first person that went to college may not have even happened yet, right? Because of all these social issues and systemic issues. And then, of course, the crime bill, where we see a real problem, drug addiction and gang activity and violent crime. So we're like, we have to do something to get these people off the street. Okay, you got me. That's a good idea, to get violent people off the street. But what we know, and what we have known for a long ass time, is that the two biggest predictors of nihilism-based crime are fatherlessness and poverty, right? We did nothing. The federal government, who passed these laws, who gave attorneys general, all the weapons they need to fight back against this stuff, we didn't do a goddamn thing to make sure that those young kids left at home had dad figures. It doesn't have to be, you can't recreate dad, but you need a strong real male role model, or you're going to be an asshole when you get, if you're a kid, if you're a male child and you don't have a strong male role model, you're going to be a dick. Like, this is how it is. It's like, you have to, it's like a wild dog, basically, just the way it is. It doesn't matter what fucking culture you're in, whether it's, Muslim culture in the Arab world, or a black community here, or a Latino community here, or a white community here. You are a young man that needs purpose and learn how to control your aggression. And if you don't get that, you're going to be a dick. We knew all this, and we didn't do anything to stop it. So I do see quite a few systemic problems here. But it's one thing to identify a problem, and it's another thing entirely to try to solve it. You know what I mean? And I'm a lot more interested in solutions than I am about regurgitating all the fucking bullshit from the past. I just don't think it's like, who's that for? You know what I mean? I don't understand the intent. Is it just to make people who have been victimized justified in their victimhood, because I don't think that's a good idea. Like if a toddler falls down and hits their fucking knee on the ground and you run over like, oh, are you okay? They're going to cry because they like that attention. Is that a good idea? I don't think so. I think it's a better idea to help people live their fucking lives, right? And I think that's kind of what your book is about.
Yeah, exactly. For the most part, I'm always making the argument of a change in culture. As far as what the government can do to help people, I'm not very optimistic on helping people by means of government. Um, I'm not sure if government is the real solution because we've seen what happens before when government tries to help people in a mass scale. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the solution moving forward. So we can talk about social welfare and how it affected certain Black communities throughout this country. How beneficial was that? Many would say not very, not very beneficial. So maybe, just maybe, there are going to be some hurdles that people have to go through, but we have to change our culture as far as what exactly is important to us. What exactly are we going to do as far as moving forward? And, that's why I don't really, even within the book, I don't really talk about the welfare state. I don't really talk about anything like that because like you said, it doesn't solve anything to talk about it. Um, to me, it solves nearly everything to talk about culture. You know, when we talk about, let's say, the Jim Crow South, the one thing that you can say about the Jim Crow South is that Black families were intact and there was some economic growth, even segregation, even during segregation.
Well, that's where HBCUs came from. I mean, like that,
That's
like none of that stuff would exist except for that need. So
exactly. So while it put them in a situation to have to do for themselves, they were growing, um, even under that particular circumstance. So I'm not saying that we need segregation back, but I'm just making the point that I'm definitely not saying that. There are people who actually make that argument, though. But what I'm saying is that a strong culture, a strong family unit, allowed for them to excel under oppression, or at least at the bare minimum survive under oppression. They had to rely on each other. And I feel like right now what's happened is, America just in general, we have more of a culture of individuality. Our families are separated. And obviously Black Americans are in a similar light as far as being individuals. But even more so, the idea of family is, I kind of feel like, if I'm being very blunt, I feel like a lot of Black Americans have accepted mediocrity when it comes to family. Um, I had a conversation with my mom since writing this book, and I asked her, "Did you ever want to get married?" And I already know her answer. Her answer was no. She said, "I just wanted a boy and a girl." Right? So I'm not injecting words into my mother's mouth. This was her mentality from the very beginning. She never wanted to get married. And that's not an abnormal viewpoint within certain Black women. Her behavior was this way. She discarded men. And there are deeper reasons as to, why her specifically, why she was like this. But what she said to me is not abnormal. I hear this. You can search all over the internet. You could find the same attitude, the same feeling as men are optional. Children, I can still have. I don't need a man. The same rhetoric, the same kind of feminist mentality that exists, that is ruining the culture. It's making men weaker, men more feminized, and it's masculinized Black women. They appear more aggressive, right? Just in attitude, more aggressive than you would say possibly other people, right? And these sound like tropes, but I gotta say, I've lived it, I've been around it, and it's something that is an uncomfortable an uncomfortable pattern to kind of highlight. Even when I say there are a lot of Black men who act weak, I was one of them, right? And I had to recognize I'm acting weak in these particular ways. I'm acting very feminine in certain situations. Well, why is that? Well, I grew up with my mom and my sister. I didn't have a father figure. Um, for a long time, I was uncomfortable in certain respects being around other men. I didn't feel up to par as other men. And it's something that I had to work through to try to get over. But if I'm struggling through this, how many other men are like this who are struggling through this?
Sure.
And so I'm just looking all around me, whether it's black men or any other demographic. I'm just looking at and I'm saying this is a crisis that very few are either talking about or very few are willing to listen to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's uncomfortable to talk about for a lot of people because, um, you know, it was the case for a long time that you could say pretty much anything reasonable and that would be fine. And now it's, you know, censorship is here in a way that it probably hasn't been in this country before. You could talk about McCarthyism, but that was uh, against communism, which is, in my opinion, an evil ideology. So I'm not sure if I would really count that. Now it got out of hand for sure, but it wasn't just. It wasn't like now where basic, medical science and masculinity are being challenged. Not it's
Right.
like this is a bit different, I think. And to your point, I'm seeing more and more of it out of the young male crowd as well, and amongst the dudes that I was in the military with. It does seem like there aren't a whole especially in the infantry. A lot of people didn't have good dads for some reason. I don't know why. That maybe it's having that aggression and seeking that purpose that leads people to the military in that regard.
Yeah.
But hard to say. And the other part about this conversation, and this is one that I don't really know the answer to. I don't know which came first, but I know that the average 21-year-old male today in 2022 has 40% less testosterone than a 21-year-old male in the year 2000. So I don't know. I wonder. I know when you take like domesticated hogs and you put them back into the wild, they will start to regrow tusk. Their bottom jaw juts out a little bit. Like they readjust back to their environment. I wonder if that isn't if it's social culture influencing our physiology, or if it's the opposite. You know what I mean? Like, are our bodies not producing as much testosterone now because of the social pressures associated with masculinity? You know what I mean? Is it like, are we adapting to be less manly because it's not necessarily the best thing to be a masculine dude these days? Or is everybody a pussy because hormones and food and microplastics are killing our testosterone? You know what I mean? It's hard to say which one comes first. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that we don't have another 20 years to let it regulate. Like this shit needs to get fixed pretty soon.
Yeah. I'm sorry, they
Yeah,
just
take your time.
responded to me. Yeah, let me just reply back. All right, I'm good with it. Um, all right, we're all set. Um, so let me see. To answer your question, yeah, it's likely both. I think, part of me wants to go back to when women started entering the workforce, uh, and the change in, I would say like the change in our economy. Um, Less manufacturing over a period of time, more service work, and a lot of manufacturing jobs are very intensive, hard labor. Now we start turning into more office jobs, more white collar
Mm-hmm.
positions, less need to be strong in order to earn a living, more emphasis on intellect, um, or politics, within the workplace to get about. So I wonder if like all these things just kind of slowly over time just progressed
Mm-hmm.
and put men in a position where, um, we're being masculine isn't seen as a necessity to excel.
Right.
Um, and so there's no emphasis on it. So there's no need for it to happen.
Right.
But that I do put some stake on the acceptance of feminism
Hmm.
and this constant need to readjust our viewpoints on how women are treated within our society. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think with any social movement, once it reaches its objective, it doesn't just stop, right? It just keeps going,
Right.
and the movement just keeps growing. I've made the same kind of inference when it comes to the civil rights movement, which you could say is a net good. As far as what happened, they had an objective, they accomplished it, but what do you do with that momentum? And then King dies, and then other people step in, the Jesse
Sure.
Jacksons, so on and so forth. And you could say that they kept it going, but they kept it going as far as creating grievances
Sure.
and
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 instead of like, okay, we're doing pretty good here. Who's the next group that needs help? Right. I mean,
right,
that's what a decent human being would do. But Jesse Jackson's not a
right,
decent human being. He's a piece of shit.
exactly, exactly. So I wonder if it's a very similar thing when it comes to the feminist movement, where they reach their I don't know if you want to say they reached their objective, but they made a significant amount of progress over a period of time. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, to what end? Like, where are you done?
Mhm.
Where are you willing to acknowledge that there has been progress? And for nearly every social movement that I've seen, they're unwilling to answer that question.
Sure.
They're just saying, yeah, but, and then they move on to the next thing.
Well, there's a reason for
And
that. It's because we have a modern example of an essentially in Northern Europe, the Swedes have essentially a completely egalitarian society. It is
mhm,
the most egalitarian society, particularly gender based, in the world, probably in the history of mankind. And Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot in some of his work a couple of years ago. But what they found was uh, the more egalitarian the society there got, the more likely men were to do masculine jobs, right? And the more likely women were to do feminine jobs. Because
mhm,
all things being equal, people are probably on average going to choose the most common thing for them. That's why that's just fucking math, man. You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't surprise anybody. Of course it works that way.
right,
So, even if that is some kind of glacial social change that's happening, and maybe it isn't nefarious or anything like that. Maybe it's just kind of the way it is. This is still something that people need to pay attention to. Like, we don't have to go out and chop firewood and chase our food through the woods anymore. But it's not a bad idea to know how to do those things, right? Because,
yeah,
if, shit goes sideways, you're going to need to. And you'll notice that what people do now is their hobby or their vacation very, very often is something that our ancestors 200 years ago had to do just to stay alive. Now we go do that thing for fun, right? Now
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a really good idea. That is one of the things that's sprung forward from American culture that is actually super beneficial. So when I think about stuff like that, I think it might be a good idea for us to consider masculinity as a skill, not necessarily just a thing, not a part of our identity, but as a skill that needs to be exercised, right? Like these are this aggression from all the silly memes, the wolf that's in everybody, but it is the killer. It's like the purpose of masculinity is to provide and protect, and sometimes protect means fucking somebody up. You know what I mean? So
right,
that like base preternatural urge to be aggressive and violent, you have to learn how to control that shit. It's like being a superpower. It's like being an X-Man, and you don't know how to control your power, so you're dangerous to everybody around you. This is how we have to think about these things. Masculinity is a skill. It is a skill that must be taught at the earliest possible level, not just to young boys, but young girls need to see what real masculinity looks like, the kind that provides and
Yes.
protects and not the kind that's predatory, for example, right? Like that, I tell people this a lot. Everything that a young boy learns about how to treat his mom or how to treat women, he's going to learn from how his dad treats his mom. And everything a little girl learns from how she's supposed to be treated by men is by how her dad treats his fucking mom. You know what I mean? Or her
Hmm.
mom. That's just how that works. And I don't know the proper way to emulate that now in a single parent home. Like I have no idea what the solution to that is. But I know that there's a lot of other opportunities to affect that child's life, whether it's, you know, being a mentor or coach for sports, or if you're good at a particular, if you're good at math or science or something like that, go to the fucking whatever underserved community is around you, whether it's coal miners in West Virginia who are white kids, or whether it's black kids in fucking South Central, and help them. You know what I mean? Give them your time. There's nothing more valuable than your time. Give that to them. Take the thing off
Right.
that you can't ever replace. You can't ever get any of these minutes back, and give them that time. It'll mean more to that kid than anything that the government will ever be able to do for them. You know what I mean? And you're a fucking an example of that shit. So tell me how it went. Who are the male mentors that eventually showed up in your life? You know, or did they find you, or did you go out seeking them, or how'd that work?
To be honest with you, not until I was an adult.
Hmm. That's
Um,
common, actually.
yeah, I would say not till I was an adult where I started being around men more, um, and men to kind of look up to a little bit. Um, but not, I would even go as far as saying they weren't close enough to me where I absorbed it, to be honest with you. Um, and like I said, it was uncomfortable for me, right? Because I always felt inadequate, um, as far as being a man. And then uh, what compounded the situation was that I became a father at the age of 21. So now here I have to raise a young man while still trying to figure out what it means to be a man. Um, and
I
so
call that being a player coach. That's what that is.
exactly. Yeah, that's a great description. Um, and thankfully, the only thing that came to my mind was just not to be my father.
Mm.
So uh, in some ways, I just had like a blank slate as to what it meant to be a father, and I just became the father for my son that I thought I would have wanted when I was a kid. So I've always been attentive to him. I've always been, re-examining, myself and trying to improve and become a better father and change certain tactics. Um, but just being there is a lot, and being an emotional support for him.
Mm.
He's 16 now, and he'll be 17 in a couple months, and he's preparing for adulthood. Like he'll be here before he knows it. So now it's that stage of preparing him for the world, and that's what I've been doing, especially when he became a teenager, just kind of getting him ready and trying to be that healthy male figure that he needs and that I didn't have when I was a kid.
Sure.
Um, and that's actually, to be honest with you, that was one of the reasons why I wrote my book. I wanted to write a book, or at least something behind for my son as like a legacy. And I thought, why not write a book? Um, but I couldn't think of any particular ideas. And then George Floyd, and just talking to people, and I just hit me one day. I was like, this is it, you know. So in dedication, I wrote the book to my son, and he actually read it shortly after I published the book, and that was a proud moment for me. So he fully understood, because I talk a lot about my childhood, and he
Mm.
fully understood what it was like for me, and he told me how appreciative he is that I'm in his life and that he didn't have to go through what I went through. So, um, you know, I think we're going to veer into something else, but fatherhood is something that I don't think a lot of women understand what fatherhood means to men.
Mm.
I think there's another narrative about fatherhood that men can take their kids or leave them, right? It's just whatever. Um, and man, if they knew the suicide rate for men from divorce who can't see their kids, the turmoil that men go through because they're trying to see their children, they're trying to be involved, and they can't. I mean, this is one of those dangerous things about narratives. And once people start believing this, then they start acting differently.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's obviously absurd. Um,
Yeah,
unless you're talking about an actual sociopath, that'll never be the case. It's not how male human beings are wired genetically. You know what I mean? Like it used to be. We used to think. Uh, Brett Weinstein told me this. It used to be that people thought that the purpose of life was to, I guess, replicate your DNA, right? To breed. But it turns out, what it really is to make sure that your DNA lasts into as long into the future as possible. Not just have kids, but build a society, right? Or whatever.
right.
And it happens. It's obvious to look at where human civilization is now and draw that inference from our experience, but it happens in the animal kingdom as well, right? Like they try to set up. I mean, there's all these super complex social things going on at the, and look, these aren't like smart, these aren't intelligent creatures. They're fucking, have brains the size of walnuts, but they have these very sophisticated hierarchies that are designed to protect the community from outsiders and shit like that. I mean, that's how it is. So I don't know. Whenever people try to blame just the social environment for something, I'm like, all right, cool. You've done half the work there, but not all of it. So, but you're doing the other part of the work, which is actually the effort part, right? So there's the
Yeah,
identification of the problem, and then there's the solving of it. People ask me a lot, like, what can I do? I'm just one person to, I'm not a parent. I don't know what I can do. Well, if you're a parent, there's a very obvious thing you can do, which is what you're doing. Just be there in the first place. But if you're not a parent, um, you know, there's still, I promise you that, especially if you're a man, there's plenty of young men, young boys out there that need help. And, I don't know. I can't really speak to the current organizations that do that stuff. I don't know much about, like, Boys and Girls Club of America. That was a pretty good idea. Unfortunately, it seems like it just kind of went the way of everything else, where it's bureaucratic bloat and inefficiency and stuff like that. But, that's the problem with infrastructure in general. Like, you can only build a bridge so large. And the same is true for government. The same is true for societies in general, in my opinion. I think there's a diminishing return on the scale, on the scope of a society, but especially with government, none of them can scale indefinitely without some form of authoritarianism, right? So that the founders of this country knew that. That's why they implemented federalism. It's why the Ninth and Tenth Amendments to the Constitution exist. And I wonder why we don't. That's very simple logic, and I wonder why we don't apply that more in our day-to-day life as a solutionary mechanism, as my friend Maj Toure would like to say. I wonder why we don't apply that same theory that you solve problems at the lowest possible level, because in the same way that dropping something on top will trickle down, solving a problem at the bottom, right, solves all of this stuff on top of it. If your foundation is not good, it doesn't really matter how much effort you spend building on top of it. It's going to crumble at some point. And it's why things like local politics are super important, but also getting out, like standing in the gap between people who need help and the government is a really good idea. As Reagan liked to say, the scariest words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help," because you're giving something up for their help.
right.
But, in American society, you don't have to give me anything for my help. Like that is, if you want to talk about all your rights, your right to speak and bear arms and all this shit, you better be willing to man the fuck up when it's obligation time. And that's your obligation, is you are damn sure your brother's keeper. In this country you are. You may not be in other countries, but in this fucking country you better be. Because if you're not, I don't want to hear you talking about how great it is here. I don't want to hear any of that bullshit. If you're not chipping in, what the fuck? That's like a bench player talking shit. You know what I mean? Like, wake up.
Yeah. No, and you're right as far as well, everything that you just said, but especially when you're talking about going local. Um, I feel like, especially the past 2, 3 years, I've become more and more libertarian like, because I just see ineptitude within the federal government, regardless of party, um, and inefficiencies and how things don't work, or they claim to be pushing something through that actually isn't what it says it is. That's being created by some lobbyist that's out in DC, that's literally crafting their bills and giving it to them, and pushing it through. And so, like, to me, I'm thinking, well, these people are so far removed from any personal accountability, right? Imagine like a local mayor of some town was to try and do these particular things, right? Same type of thing. Uh, Contracting lobbyists come in, want to build all these things. You think he'll just get away scot-free and
Right.
no one would complain, right? And I feel like we've, in many ways, especially in cities, they look towards the federal government for everything, even though there's such ineptitude within the city that they live in, and they do nothing about it, or vote for the same people, hoping that, or same type of people, I should say, hoping that things will change.
Yeah, it's the
Who
Gelman
run
amnesia
on the
effect.
same,
There's a name for it.
right?
It's called the Gelman amnesia effect, and it's when you know for a fact an institution has no credibility, but you trust it anyways. Right? It would be
Yeah.
like opening the New York Times to the finance section, and they say something really stupid, like you should buy this or you should sell all of this, and you're like, that's dumb. Like, nobody's gonna take that advice. And then you flip the page, and it's like it says something that you kind of agree with, and you're like, oh, that's fine now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, dude, that sucks. Like, that institution is not to be trusted. You can't fuck up that big. But that's how it is, man. People, and I wonder what part of it is desperation and what part of it is laziness. You know what I mean? Because it's the more comfortable you get, the easier it is to let other people do stuff for you, even if it costs you something. And I don't mean money. I mean, like,
Yeah.
even if it costs you part of your liberty.
Well, we saw that in the past couple of years.
Sure.
A lot of people had relatively comfortable lives, and they just said, "Shut up and comply." Right? All you got to do is just get the shot. What's your problem? What's the deal? Just do it, right? And that's the type of, I don't know, man. I don't know how we're going to get truly past that, where I don't want to say half of Americans, but when a significant amount of Americans look at the other side and think that they're monsters for not wanting to get an injection, and can't comprehend why someone is hesitant, right? And I think there's a problem with that, and I think some of it comes from feeling comfortable in their situation. They're comfortable with the decision to inject themselves. Why aren't you? Something is wrong with you. Um, I don't know if we're veering too far off what we were originally talking about, but I for whatever reason, that made me think about that. The level of comfort it takes for someone to become a tyrant towards others, is what I've been watching, especially like the past couple of years when it came to COVID.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, and it's ever evolving in group out group dynamics, which is to be honest, that's something that is like a lot of the problems that happen in the United States are not necessarily unique to the United States, but this one, I would say the United States and Canada probably have this particular issue more than any other issue, which is to say, the battle lines, for lack of a better phrase, are constantly being redrawn. Who's the friendly? Who's the enemy? It's not about race for sure. I don't think anybody even cares about that shit anymore. Although it is weaponized quite a bit. It's not about straight gay. Nobody cares about that shit anymore. But it is like, I think there's certainly a radical element to it, but it really comes down to people that want to be left the fuck alone, and people who have been trained so well by the media to hate anybody that look at what's happened over the past 2 years, where the idea of individual medical liberty has now been cast as selfish. Are you fucking kidding me? We're in the middle of a decades long debate over body autonomy, and that's your position. That's completely diametrically opposed to everything you've been saying for decades, and now this is what you said. So I don't think that people are necessarily brainwashed or anything, but they are fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Like you have to be more critical of yourself than you are of anybody else. You should, because that is your foundation, your knowledge base, what you believe, and then the beliefs that are stacked on top of those beliefs, and on and on. That's how you see the world. And if that shit's fucked up, then you're fucked up. You're gonna believe dumb shit all the time, man. And now you're not a contributor to society. You're just another fucking voice. You're a net negative for society if that's how you. If you're a liberal and everything you know about conservatives you learned from fucking MSNBC, then you are failing as an American. And the same is true if you're a conservative and everything you know about liberals comes from Fox News. You are failing yourself. You're failing your country. You can't do this shit. You got to get up close with people. Like you're talking about the time and effort that you put into your child and what that's meant to you and him. It's the same thing with any relationship. And you are an ambassador every single day for the ideals that you represent. And for me, it's liberty, right? It's American liberty. That's what I care about. And I consider every day an opportunity to proselytize people, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. Mm-hmm. Show them a little bit of fucking liberty. You know what I mean? It's hard to unring that bell. When you felt like you've been oppressed and then somebody fucking frees you up, it's hard to unring that bell. And we don't do enough of that. Instead, when somebody does say, hey, you know what? We probably shouldn't have mandated all that stuff. You're like, see, I fucking told you. Like, no, that's the wrong answer. The right answer is, yeah, you're right. Welcome aboard, right? Like, this is a team building exercise and we are fucking failing at it right now.
Yeah. I want to add a little bit to it because you were saying, different sides. I think there's definitely a class element that's at hand.
Oh yeah.
And I try not to use the word too often, but almost in some ways like a class warfare that we're seeing. The anti-racism movement, even the LGBT movement, even the battle within schools, as far as pushing certain ideologies, leftist ideologies. I can't ignore there's a class element to it. I talk to people all over the country who are experiencing all different types of issues when it comes to trying to stick up for their community and fight back against certain leftist ideologies that they feel is harming their children. And one thing that becomes very clear, the higher in the economic ladder of a particular town, the more likely it is there and it's entrenched. And I think to myself, well, why is that the case? Why is it that a poor neighborhood that has so-so teachers doesn't really have all this stuff, but it seems like the upper middle class or elite schools are just entrenched in this? And it's because, well, more likely these teachers are coming from elite institutions, elite colleges, and it's feeding off into there. These are the children of the wealthy who are also wanting you to take your tax dollars and bail them out for their college loans as well, which is a bailout for the elite as well. So I can't ignore an element of class when we talk about the media. Batya Sargon Ongar, she wrote, I think I just butchered her name, but Batya.
You were close. You were close. You got all the words right. They were just in the wrong order. But Batya is her first name.
I was in the wrong order.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Batya. She's gonna kill me. but she wrote a book
Hmm?
talking about why is the media the way it is. It's because they're basically, generally speaking, elite.
Hmm.
And they have an elitist mentality. I've asked the question, why does it feel like the media hates us? Right? Why does it sound like they're talking down at us when it comes to certain things? There's like zero understanding and an apolitical understanding as far as why certain people would feel a particular way. Um, I was just writing an article for the New York Post, and it's kind of in response to a New York Times article where they're talking about the American dream, right? And they're talking to Hispanic Americans. Some of them are immigrants, and they're saying exactly why they believe in the American dream. They came here from another country, they worked really hard, they excelled, and this is why I believe in the American dream. And what do they say? Well, it's a dog whistle. It's because they want to exclude people. And I'm like, they're not even listening to you. There is no good faith when it comes to the media and the very people. Like, used to, before I could say, well, they're just not talking to the people,
Mm.
but they're literally writing verbatim what these people are telling, and they're just like, yeah, well, let's go to this associate professor. What do you have to say?
Yeah,
Well, it's
yeah.
dog whistles. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So they just do not care.
Well, that's why they're
And
like the Democratic Party has been hemorrhaging Latino people for about 10 years, and this year is going to be the biggest hemorrhage of all, I think. Yeah,
yeah,
they've completely fucked that up. Like, nobody wants to be talked down to, and you can feel it. I mean, certainly,
yeah,
I would, there's definitely class warfare going on. I think it just happens to be between the ruling class and everyone else. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Thank you.
every now and again, they'll have somebody who's a patron, who's under their patronage that'll rise through the ranks and get into that society or into that world. But these micro wars in culture, that's all a distraction. That's all divide and conquer bullshit. Like, they want black and white
Yeah,
people to be mad at each other, so they're not looking into what the IRS is up to, stealing your shit. Um, and it sells tickets. You know what I mean? If life was a movie, that shit sells tickets. There's got to be conflict somewhere, and it's either going to be between the people and the aristocracy, and that conflict looks like this. The people are constantly holding the aristocracy down so they don't become too powerful, because that's how federalism is meant to work. Or it's
hmm,
you and me arguing while they fleece both of us. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. And that's why you should be highly suspicious. It's one of the principles here. I would reject divisiveness in all its form, because that's exactly what that is. That is magician's patter. It is just some rich assholes trying to keep you riled up so they can steal your shit. That's all that is, right? And
yeah.
and unfortunately, this time it's not just money they're stealing, but it's liberty as well. And it can't take another step in that direction, because we're getting pretty close to fucked here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think also they like the divisiveness. Like you said, it isn't one big distraction. Um, it works to some degree, but even more so, they're not even using it as a distraction so much, especially when it comes to like culture war stuff. But they're using it as they're basically weaponizing it
Mm.
to leverage something that they actually want. Um, it makes me. I always think about
Well,
with
that's why
UK.
like every fucking week
Okay,
there, every fucking week there's an article that says something like this: climate change affects Black Americans worse, right? So now climate change is a racial issue. Like, oh my
right.
God, are you fucking kidding me? Last week, I believe it was either Washington Post or New York Times ran an article blaming obesity on climate change. Like, shut the fuck up. How about corn syrup, motherfucker? You know what I mean?
Actually, I just saw, and I might be messing this up. I just saw an article someone put up, uh, basically systemic racism in car crashes.
But that's what it is, right? So if
Yeah.
you do multivariate testing, this is a marketing apparatus, a very well functioning one. You do multivariate testing, you see where people's interests happen, and you try to associate your goal with that interest. It's called affinity based marketing. That's what it's called.
Hmm.
So it's like you're a football fan and you like beer. I'm gonna fucking advertise my beer on the football program that you watch. Right? That's good advertising. It makes sense. Except for this
Right.
time again, what they're advertising is division. And
Hmm.
man, I'm not into it. I just I hang out around actual people. You know what I mean? And we don't feel that way.
Yes.
Like we don't feel that way. It's just not true. All the shit that the media is talking about every single day. It's just not true. Like normal people are not fucking having these experiences. There aren't fucking hillbilly white supremacists going through middle class black neighborhoods spray painting shit. It's just not fucking happening, man. Because the hillbillies can't figure out how to get GPS to work. Probably, I don't know, but uh, that shit it's just not real. You know what I mean? And I agree with you. It's certainly weaponized, and it is. But that's kind of how the process works. You take the bit that sticks. Because look, you don't. There's two things you do not want to be: a rapist or a racist. Like those are the two things that will
Hmm.
get you. What people call it canceled now, but like excluded from society. Those two things are pretty unforgivable, right? And
Yeah.
with good reason too. Like I'm not disputing that part, but when the concept of masculinity itself is on trial because some men, like a very small portion of men, have been dicks in the past. This is not reality. This is literally throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Well, it does make sense when you understand what the goal is, which is to keep people distracted,
Right.
to keep them angry at each other, and to provide these vehicles, these social class, culture, war vehicles, whatever you want to call it, to get their agenda pushed through, whatever it happens to be. That's really what it is.
And it's interesting because you were saying, normal Americans don't talk like this, don't interact like this, like they don't have this particular problem. And actually, I started realizing that this rhetoric, as far as like the anti-racist rhetoric, where they
Mm,
say, white people are like this and that, I honestly, in some ways, maybe not all of them. I think some of the, let's say the black people who are leftists are kind of ideologues, but I think, and not even just black people, actually, let me correct that. Anybody who's a leftist,
mm,
so, an upper class leftist kind of ideologue, I think they're giving us a window into their actual reality. Because I think for them, they're around people who look down upon
mm,
people who are maybe tend to be a little bit more racist because they're kind of hateful people,
mm.
you know, and this is not to say like all wealthy people are this way, but
Sure.
there is a there is a certain character trait that allows for people to become extremely
Mm,
successful. You become kind of an elitist in
mm.
some ways, and I wonder if that point sticks for certain people because they're of the upper class and they kind of see themselves as above everybody else, and they look at each other in a very crude and critical way that's not very politically correct or nice or hateful, or whatever you want to call it.
But you can't say it out
So
loud,
sometimes I
right?
wonder.
Like if you're one of those people, you can't say that shit out loud, so you just project it onto others.
Yeah,
James Lindsay likes to call it the iron law of woke projection, which is to say
yeah,
anything you hear a woke person accusing people of, they are definitely up to, right?
exactly.
Grooming children, for example, like is the number one on my list right now. But yeah, it's yeah, you're 100% correct about that.
Yeah. So like that's why whenever I try to write an article, I try to talk about the average American,
Mm,
the working class American, because I think we're getting stuck in this wealthy elitist leftist bubble that maybe they are experiencing, but you know what? Those people are weirdos. Like they're not like that's your own demographic. That's your own shit that you're projecting on the rest of
mm.
us. And the rest of us, we got bigger fish to fry. We got real problems. You know, like I can't remember the lady's name who she was talking about. She's with the federal government. She's talking about getting solar panels and
Oh
how
yeah.
it'll be less, it'll cost less. And I'm like, this woman doesn't understand that so many people live check to check who rent. They don't own a house. Go out and just buy a hybrid. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's buy a brand new hybrid as we're struggling to pay our bills and we're trying to do better in an economy that's failing us. Like these are people who are disconnected from the reality of what the average American has to go through, and I don't think they fully understand that, and nor are they willing to accept that, or even care about looking at that. For them, it's just, well, why wouldn't you just get a hybrid, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's it. Just go get a hybrid. Go get a Tesla. It's no problem. It's that kind of mentality that exists, and these are the people who create our narratives. And that's ultimately like what led for me to just finally say, I'm going to sit here and write this book. I'm going to start speaking out, because I got tired of people speaking for me. I got tired of people speaking for me because I am a Black male. I got tired of people creating all these narratives for me because of one man who has died in an unfortunate manner in Minnesota that I've never met and would have never met. And why is this the case? And it's because not enough people are pushing back. Not enough people within the media are willing to give a counterpoint. And I've written an article about this. The Black people who do give a counterpoint to this are easily maligned. They're called Uncle Toms and Coons, and you know it, because they do not agree with this narrative. And that, to me, is a problem. And not enough people are willing to even talk about that particular dynamic, how it's perfectly fine to be racist towards a Black Republican or a Black conservative. And now that the demographics are starting to shift as far as Hispanics towards becoming more conservative or joining the Republican Party, now they're starting to get the same type of treatment, as far as being called out, not really Hispanic,
Yeah.
and all these different things. So I think.
Well, Joe Biden compared Mexican people to tacos, which seems racist. I don't know. But who knows? She's a doctor.
I mean, I I made up something not too long ago called "Ain't Blackistan"
Yeah.
for us as refugees
Yeah.
who aren't Black because we didn't vote for Joe Biden, and but that's our reality. That's our political reality. If you do not comply as a Black American to a particular narrative, then you aren't really Black.
Sure.
You're not politically Black. And these are narratives that are created, especially they're perpetuated by the Black elite, by the Black wealthy. And to me, they're as much as a problem as anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's, it's a symptom of something pretty sinister, in my opinion. I mean, American public education has been like this for a while, where the purpose isn't to spit out the best and brightest, most talented and prepared for life people. It's to produce compliant workers. You know what I mean? Like, think about what it means to be a quote unquote good student when you're in middle school. It's not that you're asking a lot of questions in class because you're going to irritate the fuck out of your teacher doing that, right? It's not that you're engaged in the process even. It's that you show up on time, you stay quiet, and you do all your work, right? That is in the measure of success in primary education in America. Well, that's the wrong answer, Brad. I mean, you really got to... This is the point where kids come to understand the dynamic between mentor and mentee, right? Between elder and tribesman. And if you want that kid to be the best possible, whatever it is they're going to be, and to have a good relationship with the right kind of authority, it starts then. But we don't do that. I mean, to be honest, even if you are really like yourself, an active and engaged parent, and your child goes to certain public schools, and it's not just ones in blue states either. That's a battle. That's a completely separate battle, because the kid's going to come home with this idea of what it is to be a leader, what it is to be a mentor, what it is to be an adult, an authority figure that can be respected, and they get that
Yeah.
from these people. And man, it's just not reality. That's not how any of it works. So you have to undo the shit. You have to send your kid right to school for fucking 18 years, 12 years, whatever it is, and then spend the evenings and weekends deprogramming them at this point. So then the kid gets out into the world, and like you said, mandated compliance, man. We saw it in policing. We were still seeing it in the military. We saw it throughout all through corporate culture, and then we saw it through through social as well. I don't mean social media, but like our social culture in general. Like you're saying,
Hmm.
somebody has the temerity to stand up and say, "Hey, this doesn't make sense. You're a racist. You're a denier. You're whatever the fuck." It's like, no, man. Just trying to figure out what's going on here. It didn't make sense, and I wanted somebody to explain it to me. But to be honest, when I stood up and asked for somebody to explain it to me and everybody started screaming at me, that was my first sign that you were all full of shit, because that's not how you answer a legitimate question. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you ask a question and it's in good faith, and the person you ask it to shuts you down or shouts you down or whatever it is, then you know you're on the right track. That is almost always the case. So, you know, we're in a situation now where, like, if when this stuff started, enough people just said no, it never would have happened in the first place. And now we're in a position where just saying no is not going to work anymore, because there's infrastructure behind the yes. There's infrastructure behind the idea of mandates and forced compliance and stuff like this. And now you're going to have to fight your way out. I don't mean physically fight your way out of it, but I mean there's going to be it's going to be painful now, where it could have been painful in the way that waking up at 6 a.m. to work out is painful. But now it's going to be painful in the way of like heart disease. You know what I mean? Like we're in the
Hmm.
downstream portion at this point. So it's really incumbent, and this is why I do this show. It's incumbent upon people to stop letting your problems be other people's problems. Stop relying on anybody else, other than your community to help you do stuff. That's why civilizations exist. Why the small community exists. It takes a tribe, right, to raise a kid. That's what they say. Um, it didn't say 330 million people, though, right? Like, not everybody gets to get input. It's the people that have shared values with you. You have to take this stuff back. You have to take an active role in the running of your government. Now, not everybody's going to be able to do that at the federal level or even the state level, but in your community you can. You don't have to run for office, but you should damn sure know who your sheriff is. You should know who your mayor is, right? You should know who your city and state representatives are and stuff like that. And that's just the political side. That's not including all the other ways that you personally can benefit your community. Like, for example, instead of buying something on Amazon, uh, drive your ass somewhere and buy it from a local store. That's a big thing that people can do. Anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Uh, the one resource, if you want to call it that, or the one, I like to think of liberty as a muscle that needs exercise. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
the more you use it, the better you are at using it. We have to organize ourselves under the umbrella of liberty, which is the most basic human right, and accept the responsibilities required of us to ensure liberty not just for us and not just for now, but for every motherfucker and forever, right? Because liberty only exists if it exists for everybody. Otherwise, it's just another form of authoritarianism. And
Right.
it's why I do the show. People have got to fucking get involved in whatever way, you can.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I think that I think we take for granted what we have right now, and we hope that it will stay the same and we don't have to do anything about it. At minimum, I think people should speak up when they see something that is immoral and something that violates other people, that takes advantage of other people. That is why it's important for us to talk about the protection of children. That's why we should be critical of these particular things. We should be critical of these particular ideologies. You had mentioned before, when initially when people stood up and they started calling them racist. For me, it's to the point where it's the boy who cried wolf, and
Mm,
that doesn't work anymore. And more people are waking up and actually becoming brave enough to say something about it. I like when I wrote my book, I wrote it, no, like four people knew I was writing this
mm,
book. I didn't have a public profile, but I did it for myself. Um, I did it for my son, and I did it to hopefully see if anybody wanted to hear what I had to say.
mm.
Um, and you never know the impact that you'll make by even doing so, um, and who you might touch and who you might change and embolden to actually do the right thing. Um, but I've met so many incredible people who are just one person who I know they've touched a whole bunch of people and have come together. I think of Billboard Chris.
Mm.
I recently met him in Tampa for an event for Moms for Liberty. They invited me down there. Moms for Liberty. It was just two moms came together, and in about a year or so, they created this organization with over 100,000 members, right? So you had two people who were able to galvanize 100,000 people, and enough so to invite me to come and meet Billboard Chris, who is a man who's been traveling all over the United States and Canada, pushing out this message, starting off by himself, and now getting people to see what he's trying to do, now highlighting the children's hospitals that are performing surgeries or providing puberty blockers to minors, right? This is just one guy from Canada, just a guy. I've met him. He's a incredible guy, very nice guy, very welcoming, but he's just one guy,
Mm.
and he's been able to have such an impact. I'm just one guy, and I'm trying to do everything I can to have some sort of impact within a multitude of conversations. And so, if we're just two people who are just doing something in this particular climate, and we don't have to fight, we don't have to physically hurt anybody, we don't have to physically defend ourselves. We're not at that point. Why not? Right? What are you worried about? For me, I think for me, because I've had nothing, I've been homeless, right? And I've built myself up. If I was to lose my job because of what I'm doing, I believe in myself enough that I'll find another job,
Mhm.
right? It is far more. I came to a point where it was worth the risk versus living with myself and not saying anything. That's the point where it kind of came for me. Um, you know, this wasn't about making money. This wasn't about anything like that. People like to throw around the word grifter. For me, there's far more principle behind this. It was about expressing myself, adding to the narrative, and now I've come to the point where I'm trying to encourage people to do the same thing that I did. That's what I'm trying to do with Wrong Speak.
Mm.
With Wrong Speak, I'm providing an avenue for people to write articles, to express themselves. Um, my editor, Audra, when I first met her, she was just an avatar and a random name. Now she uses her full name. She uses her picture. She's proud to express her points. She's proud to speak and be out there. She's not afraid, right? And so many other people that I've met and that I've been able to impact to do the same. I'm always telling people, like, stop being anonymous. Just be yourself, put yourself out there, because that's how these people win, because
Mm.
you're scared. And for me, I've been doing this for about a year. I use my name, I use my face. I don't hide myself. It's not a pseudonym, because I'm not scared. I'm not worried about these people. And that is the most dangerous person for them. They're so used to everybody cowering to them and saying, "Oh, please don't call me a bad name." At this point, call me an Uncle Tom, call me a coon, call me a racist, call me a bigot. I really don't care, because I know who I am,
Yeah.
right? So I think more people should have that particular attitude. And I know sometimes it's hard to come by, but that's what you have to do right now before it's too late.
Sure. I mean, it's easier when someone's leading the charge, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's just the more people that do the right thing, the more people who will be inspired to do the right thing. And the easier it will get for everyone. I appreciate you coming today. It's been a very interesting conversation. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience before you get out of here? And also include in that where to find you and where to find your book and stuff.
Yeah, I'm really active on Twitter these days, so you can follow me at wrong_speak. Definitely go to wrongspeak.net to read the articles. Not so much for myself these days because it's more of a platform for other people. I have a set of writers that write for me now, that I've paid for to write, so I can help people to have some sort of financial benefit and encouragement to express themselves as well. Um, and I'm trying to just promote that. I'm trying to get into the avenue as far as publishing books for other people, not just for myself. And at some point, I'll get to my second book, which I kind of started and I stopped because I got too busy. But um, yeah, definitely go to wrongspeak.net and you can find out everything about me.
Cool. Thanks, man. We appreciate you coming today. Always enjoy these conversations. And it's nice to run into more people that are out there trying to improve life for others, not just themselves. We're in this pat yourself on the back and take a fucking mental health day culture these days. It's nice to see somebody actually doing some fucking work. Again, thanks for coming. Appreciate your time, and thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.